Hey y'all, hope you're all doing really well. Boy, let's just jump into the topic, why don't we? So body dysmorphia is fucking real, and it's really real for men. So throughout my entire life, I've always had problems with weight, but it wasn't necessarily tied to insecurities in terms of like my self-image. I think I've always had problems with my weight, particularly because when I was a child, my parents didn't really see me that much, and so they weren't able to really care about if the foods I was eating was good, and they would never make food for me. I would always eat food provided at school or after school programs or summer day camps, all of that stuff. So it was real. I never had much control over what I ate. I just was told that I could eat anything and I didn't have any like problems, but like I have had problems because I've always had skin irritations with eczema, and this is at a time too in my life when I was drinking like a gallon of milk every 3 days, which I shouldn't have been because I was lactose intolerant, but I didn't know at the time. But because I had been drinking so much milk and consuming so much dairy, that I just got to the point where my body kind of adjusted to it, because that's how I've been dealing with. That's literally been my eating habits for all of my life. But then it kind of got to a point halfway through middle school, where like my mental health was starting to really be challenged, particularly because my family is very individualistic and very much like, you do your own thing, I do my own thing. Maybe we'll have a family dinner once a week or not, and it was a very cold, not very connective family. And so throughout my growing up, there was never going to be like an opportunity where they could stumble upon, like connect two and two together, like, oh, you sleep with a fan on because it's too hot. Oh, your skin is always irritating. No, it was never that. It was always, oh, that's something I need to work on myself. It's an issue that I need to deal with. And this is when I'm like a kid. I know nothing. I know nothing about my body. And at the same time, like, I remember once I have a sleepover with a friend, we're not friends anymore, not because we're not friends anymore, but because we've just gone separate ways. I remember one time I wanted her to sleep over, and this was way before I even knew about sex. Like, I didn't even know how it functioned. Like, I knew like a guy had a penis and a girl had a vagina, but I didn't know that those two would like, rub together. Like, I didn't even have the recollection, but they told me like, no, you can't have it because you might just like end up having sex. And I'm like, I'm 11. Why do you think I'm gonna do that? That's kind of weird on your end. But I say that just to let you know how generally clueless I was about my body, surroundings, and everything like that. And then, so with that put into context, my evil, and I do mean evil, my evil stepmother at the time, she's not my stepmother anymore, thank God, but my evil stepmother at the time noticed that I was gaining more and more weight, and instead of really honing in and figuring out, oh, maybe he's allergic to stuff, maybe he's dealing with inflammatory stuff, maybe we should be more invested and try figuring out why. I did once meet a nutritionist, and that really didn't go anywhere. It was not helpful at all because the nutritionist wanted me to still eat foods that at the time I didn't know, but I was allergic to. Anyway, it's 7th grade had just ended. It's the summer. She sends me off to this horrific weight loss camp in Santa Cruz, California. And I knew that before she decided on that specific camp, there was one other camp that was like way better, but it cost a little bit more money. So she went with the cheaper option, even though it had kind of like reviews. And so I didn't want to go there, but I didn't have any say in the matter. I didn't have any choice. And so we drove down to Santa Cruz, all the way from Corvallis, Oregon, and they dropped me off. And it was just, this was the first time I was going to be without my parents for 2 weeks. Like, I was gone for a month, but it was going to be my first time ever being apart from them for more than 2 weeks. And it was going to be my first time being apart from family in general and more. So I didn't mentally was able to prepare for that. And so when I got there, it was just shit, you know, I'm a middle school boy too, so I'm just like, I don't want to be there, and so I'm cranky. And then they're cutting my eating and manipulating stuff just so I can get to a certain weight, so by the end of the month they can be like, hey, he lost 30 pounds in a month. Our work here done. So I basically was taught how to crash diet, and I ended up developing a lot of unhealthy ways of approaching eating. And so it was, I don't really want to get into my experience of the camp. I just think it should be shut down. It was abusive. They didn't have the right counselors for like mental health, and it was just, no one there was qualified to do what they were doing, in my opinion. No one was. And it was at the USC campus, University of Santa Cruz, California campus, very hilly. Their mascot is the banana slug. But yeah, and so after, I actually did call my parents crying like within a week, saying like, please take me out of here, I'm so unhappy. I was telling them all about like the verbal abuses I was dealing with, and just like racism, racism. But my stepmother didn't care and forced me to stay there. My mother, one of my mothers, she didn't care. Oh, by the way, I come from a super unorthodox family. I was adopted by 2 white lesbians, and then when I was 8, they split up, and then one got with a different woman from out east. She came over. It was a very miserable 6 years of my life under her authoritarian rule. So yeah, shit was bad. My mental health was really starting to pick up steam and speed in terms of like deterioration. So I go back home, and you know, I kind of start implementing these habits that I was told are healthy and that I should be focusing on, which was disastrous. And because it didn't get to the root of the problem, later, many years later, I'd find out that it was really emotional eating. It was eating out of boredom, and it was literally eating foods that I'm allergic to, or foods that increase inflammation in my body. But I wouldn't find that out for literally years later. And so I go through high school, I'm an actor, so naturally I'm also caring about what I look like, and I'm also an athlete, and so I'm trying to like really push myself in the gym, but I just felt like I was never really pushing, I wasn't getting the results that my peers were getting. And so it felt like all this work I was doing was just to maintain the my current body weight. And that kind of fucked with my head, because I was like, I don't know, I'm doing everything that I was told to do, and it's not working. It's not working at all. And yeah, when you're eating a bunch of food that you're not that you're allergic to is going to inflame your body. It's going to inflame your muscles. You're not going to be able to push yourself as far. You're not going to see the same results as you would if you were strictly eating foods that you weren't allergic to, which made, like, as you guys can probably assume, now it makes me fucking furious that a lot of this was preventable, and you know, my family wiped their hands clean of it. So I didn't have ever really a healthy relationship with food, and then when my family sent me to that camp, it worsened everything, and it just got to, so I was, yeah, it just inflamed, so to speak, my eating disorder, and I would just do all these crash diets, and I would just be cranky all the time because I would not eat, and then I would binge eat, and then I would throw up, and then it just, like, the whole process would repeat over and over again. And but then when I moved to London, and then I thought things were fine, but when I moved to London is also when I started drinking. Yeah. I have no regrets, but drinking definitely fucks with your body long term, you know, the freshman 15. But I was doing a pretty good job at maintaining my body weight. Like, I wasn't, you know, a fucking bodybuilder or anything like that, but I was a respectable shape and size, I would say. And I need to get some water. Oh, fuck. I was just respectable shape and size, but I also wasn't doing what I needed to do in order to actually live healthy. You know, I was doing all these, you know, shortcuts, if you would call them that. I was smoking cigarettes to suppress my appetite. I was drinking a lot of caffeine to suppress my appetite, and I was just also allowing myself to just go hungry and hungry. But I kept on seeing the results I wanted to, which was a thinner Ricky. And then I basically got to that point by January of 2020, and even though I wasn't, like, healthy, I looked healthy, you know, I was slim and stuff, and I was really happy with myself because I told myself since I was, like, probably 13 that I want to have my ideal body by 21, but, like, ideally at least at the most before 2025. Just growing up in my my church, being 25 years old is kind of like, that is when you're officially, like, an adult. Like, you're officially an adult. And so I wanted to make sure, you know, I had my shit together by then, and that I'd be able to march into my 30s eventually quite strong, resilient, and in the shape that I wanted to be. But as you guys can tell, January 2020, what happens a little later? Yeah, COVID shuts down everything. Like, there was a point in London where I could only go out for groceries. I couldn't even go out for, like, a 30-minute jog, and the gym in my apartment building closed, and so that was, like, my only way out of, like, because I would wake up, all my classes had been canceled. Like, okay, oh well, I already went to the store yesterday, let's go to the gym. That's my only thing I can do, is go to the gym. And then within a few weeks the gym closed, and then I had, like, a mental breakdown because I'm like, I cannot continue maintaining this body weight. And, like, I did have some muscle mass, you know, and it freaked me out because I was like, what am I supposed to do? Like, I literally based my health routine on having access to a gym whenever I wanted, and when that was taken away from me, I plummeted. I called my parents. I was just like, I can't even go out to the gym here. And, you know, the restrictions hadn't really gone into effect that much in Oregon, and so my parents flew me back home. But my parents don't have a room for me because my parents don't care. I know it sounds kind of like I'm just Like, they didn't care, and so they put me up in a hotel for 4 months. Yeah, and then they complained to me about how much that cost. Like, you know? And so I tried during that time, I tried doing what I could. You know, the gyms weren't open, obviously, and so I tried getting home weights, and I tried working out with friends occasionally, and I just did a lot of hiking, and that was pretty good. But it just got to the point where my mental health was so bad that I got so depressed that I couldn't get out of bed, and I was just like, fuck it, you know. I'm not gonna be able to continue this up. Like, I'm exhausted already. And so I was just like, you know what, just give up. Like, you're gonna gain a lot of weight and it's gonna suck, but like, you've been running on E all your life. You haven't been approaching this healthy. And so I did, and then I started eating all these foods that I'm not supposed to eat because I gain a lot of weight, you know. And then because I'm not wearing my normal clothes, I ended up outgrowing my clothes. And so it was just something I was battling with back and forth. And, you know, fortunately, by the time the pandemic was over, by the time I graduated, I was at a good weight, but that was mostly that motivation was mostly driven out of unhealthy methods. I don't want to go into too much detail about that, but it was not good how I rebounded and got my weight under control. But I'm an actor. I also care to look my best, and so I knew that these photos I was going to look back at them, you know, 60, God willing, 60 years from now, and I want to feel good about myself about that. And so fortunately got those good photos, very good photos actually. But then when I knew I couldn't, my mental health was so depleted and my eating was just so screwed that I was feeling like I really needed to go back home. I did not have the bandwidth to try figuring out how to stay in London at the time and do what I need to do. And also throughout the pandemic, I had this strong yearning to go back home and understand America and understand myself through that. And so I went back home to Oregon, and you know, I kept the weight off pretty well, I would say, for a few months. And then I found myself at a party like at 4 in the morning on a couch with some undesirable people, let's say, doing some undesirable things. And I was just like, wait, whoa, like, why am I here? I'm not supposed to be here. I'm not meant to be here. And that's when I was like, okay, Ricky, you know what? You need to cut out all the stuff that is actually harming you long term. Like, you need to stop dealing with all these shortcuts. You need to rebuild yourself. You need to build back better. And so what I did is I stopped doing all the things that all the coping mechanisms in order to artificially maintain my body weight. And soon enough, you know, especially with my mental health being depleted and me eating and binging and all of that, you know, I ended up gaining a huge amount of weight, which made me feel super shit. I'm not gonna lie, but there were times when I could appreciate that I wasn't caring so much about what I looked like, because it was like, wow, I gained the weight, you know? This is what I was afraid of the entire time. Well, it's here right now. I'm living with it. It's fine. It's fine. So, but I did notice people, friends, family treating me different because of it, and that really sucked because I kind of thought people liked me because of my personality, you know. But people also like to look at something nice, and you know, I can't fault them too much to a certain extent, but I did feel my social status go down, and that wasn't good. And then when I was traveling across the country, if you guys don't know, I traveled across the country, drove over 11,500 miles across North America. That was a wonderful, traumatic, dangerous, thrilling, lonely experience. I'm so happy that it happened, but it didn't allow for me to be in the best position to eat this type of stuff that I needed to eat. Like, I would be, oh shit, I have to get to like Tucson, Arizona in like 6 hours, you know, I can't stop here and, you know, cook food and stuff like that. So I'll just like go and get beef jerky and some other shit, you know, at a convenience store type of thing. Like, and also I didn't have that much money. I still don't have that much money. So yeah. So I just wasn't in the right environment. I was also overheating all the time. I wasn't fully getting enough rest and sleep, and so I started gaining a little bit more weight. But it was like, it's all right, because I'd kind of like, I've been going to the gym every day because I had to. I would go to Planet Fitness to take a shower in the morning and then take a shower at night or whatever. And so I'm like, I'm in the gym, you know, I might as well pump some iron. And also didn't want them to think that I was just there for the shower, which I was, and I know a lot of people do that with Planet Fitnesses, but hey, middle class guy sleeping out of his car, you know, it's a new territory, you know. So, and then I was driving through Texas, and I almost had a near-death experience with a cop where I really thought I was gonna die. And then my eating kind of just went super emotional. I just like started indulging in everything because I was like, oh shit, like I really thought I was gonna die. What the fuck do I care about my waistline, you know? And so I ate and ate emotionally, and it was all food I shouldn't be eating anyway. Not that, and I don't want to equate like there are good foods and there are bad foods. I just want to say like there are foods that I can eat without my body reacting negatively to it, and there are foods that are not. And a month or so after the whole incident, I went to New York to see a friend, and that was a whole other saga. But I did feel a little bit, I felt ashamed because this friend had last seen me in person when I was not the thinnest, not the healthiest I was, but definitely more familiar to the guy that he met when we first met. And I felt a little bit undesired in that way, and that kind of sucks. But it's been something that it's just been a roller coaster, and I found out that it's just very nuanced. Body dysmorphia, eating disorders, like, it's a very nuanced situation, and you know, I'm still working on it. I think ideally eventually I would get to a place where I could have like a therapist, someone who actually knows shit, but I don't have access to those types of funds right now, so that will be in the future. But in the meantime, over the past nearly 2 years of this entire saga, since coming back from London and having to deal with what I've dealt with, I have progressed tremendously. You know, I cleaned my slate and started building up better eating habits, and you know, definitely setbacks, just like alcoholics with relapses. You know, there were setbacks, and there's going to be setbacks in the future, but I'm just really proud of myself where I've gotten here. You know, I'm not fully confident in my body, but I'm starting to get back there, and I feel like I'm on the right trajectory to being more balanced in my life, which is a blessing. Such a motherfucking blessing. So I say all of this to share with you guys that men do have eating disorders, men do struggle with body dysmorphia. If I'm not a pinnacle example of that, then I don't know who is, you know? But I just think that something I've learned from it all is, A, you're going to be your toughest critic. B, if you want to change, it's definitely possible. It just requires a lot of hard work, a lot of introspection, a lot of outward thinking. Yeah. Anyways, if this was of any help, comfort, or, you know, I'm glad. And if you're new here, welcome. I normally post vlogs every single day. I do have this thing, the channel has a shtick, if you will, where we post new videos every single day. So if you found my story compelling, if you like, oh, Ricky seems like a chill guy, I might be interested in watching his vlogs, his other videos, then please subscribe. And yeah, I thank you so much for hearing me out with making it all the way to the end of the video. I do want to say though, if you are subscribed or you want to subscribe, please press the bell notification. I post at such weird times. Usually I post, you know, I try posting at like 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, but sometimes it's like 11:30 at night, you know, and no one sees it. So if you are subscribed, please press the bell notification. But until then, I'll see you in the next video. Peace and love.
It's a daily vlog.